Hey everyone, welcome to the 491st episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by Joey Family. Thanks, Joey. I'm Oren Kaplan.
And I'm Adam Mo. Today we've got Kat Coiro on the show. Her list of credits is too long and too awesome to even fathom, but I'm going to hit you with the Matt and Lo favorites. Dead to Me, Florida Girls, an underwatched show that we didn't get to talk about, but worth shouting out. Girls Five Eva, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, The Spiderwick Chronicles, and Matlock, which she is an EP on currently.
Lots of cool stuff, a lot of comedy.
She does TV, she does movies. We talk a little bit about her commercial career at Gravy Films.
And she also has 3 kids. It's the wild part.
Yeah.
I can barely do it with 2 dogs.
It was such a good conversation. I found it to be really invigorating and inspiring. You know, yes, to your point of like, oh yeah, she has a family, and we talk about that kind of towards the end. But also just like her approach, her take, her understanding of what it is to be a director and to bring a presence to set, and not just through your essence, but through really clear decision making of like how you want to show up and how do you want to support your actors and your crew.
Through your
awesome.
aura.
It's truly inspiring though. So I think it was a really great conversation, especially if you're, thoughtful about that sort of stuff, or maybe if you're struggling with it. I think there are a lot of directors out there who don't naturally think through their presence, and it is so much of the job.
Yeah. No, it's you've said it. I've said it. I think we're all thinking it all the time, but just that our job is being like salespeople,
Sure. Customer service.
If we're not selling it, then
but how do you do that authentically, right? And I think Kat had really wise answers to all of that.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I've worked in advertising for so long that salesman has no negative connotations to me anymore. But
however, salesmanship sort of implies that you don't necessarily have to believe what you're selling. You know what I mean? You don't have to believe what you're selling to be good at selling what you're selling.
Yeah, I guess I equate it with like being convincing, confident, influential.
Sure.
And I guess a good leader.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before we
tell people,
we should tell people.
What should we tell?
We should tell people about 2 things.
Ooh, 2 things. Yes.
One,
that reminds me.
Patreon. Patreon.com/JustShootItPod is where you can throw us a buck or 2 to show us your support. We're seeing that growth. Joey Family, he re-upped his support. Appreciate you, Joey. Do you like Joey? Double check. Like if you were a patron once upon a time and you realize, oh shoot, I'm not actually submitting my patronage anymore. Think about it.
I feel like that should have been number 2 because I feel like number 1 is a little more important.
Burying the lead. Everybody.
Yeah, well, people are probably fast forwarding.
They're fast forwarding it. I'm going to teach them not to fast forward.
Okay. What's number 2?
Number 2, we have a party coming up. Not a panel, but just a straight up mixer, just a group of people coming out to hang out together on October. What did I say?
8th?
I'm going to double check. Just
October 8th, my birthday. Just kidding.
It is October 8th. Is that your birthday?
It is October 8th, but it's not my birthday.
We are throwing a party October 8th, Wednesday at Lawless Brewery in North Hollywood in the Valley. Yes. Let's go. They said yes.
They said, oh, cool.
Oh,
what's the address? 5275 Craner Avenue.
That's right.
Come on. Even Tony Franklin's invited to this one.
Especially Tony Franklin.
If you're Tony Franklin, you might get that reference.
We talk a lot about community on the show. We talk a lot about getting together, and
It's a really great show.
Yeah, it was canceled too early. If you want to be a part of the filmmaking community, if you want to meet other Just Shoot It listeners, if you want to find your next collaborator, our panels have always been a ton of fun, and frankly, a lot of work. And we were like, well, the party's the best part sometimes, and we're still going to do panels for sure. But we thought, well, why not just cut to the chase?
Do the party part. Yeah.
Just do the party part.
And if you're a PA that's looking for your opportunity to get hired, come talk to Matt. If you're a producer that's looking to hire a director, come talk to Oren.
Yep. Exactly that. But yeah, we will see you all October 8th.
How do people keep track of this? Are we going to do an Eventbrite? Or
we are going to do an Eventbrite. So if you go to justshootitpod.com/events, that should be good to go.
Oh, wow. You're just like making up URLs in real time.
That's our normal URL for events.
Okay. And then also follow us on Instagram. We'll keep people updated there.
Yeah. But from 6 to 10 Wednesday, October 8th in North Hollywood, Lawless Brewing Company, 5275 Craner Avenue, North Hollywood, California, 91601.
Yes, and if you have a good note about my website, I'll buy you a beer. But it has to be a really good note. I've gotten some. I've gotten actually a few pretty good notes.
Me too.
So
awesome. Well, without any further delay, let's talk to Kat Coiro.
Yeah, she's my college roommate.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, every time I go to her party, she was like, yeah, Kat couldn't make it. She's too busy being successful. But
to be fair, I was living not in Los Angeles for quite a while. I was in Atlanta, but we just moved back full time.
That is what successful people do, is they live in Atlanta because they're working so much. It doesn't make sense to bounce back and forth.
No, but I did get to hang out with Kat's mom at Emily's house. So that was, similar experience.
That's great.
Yeah, wait, don't we have another connection too, Oren?
Well, I said Doug Chamberlain, the DP.
Doug shot all my first indie films.
And he shot some She-Hulk, right?
He did. He shot a couple episodes of She-Hulk.
He's like, they didn't want me to shoot She-Hulk. And Kat was like, Doug's shooting She-Hulk.
It's true.
Which is, it's a Marvel show. It's a big deal. My guess is there do they have a list of their approved people that you can hire, or how does that work?
Marvel's interesting. They love to bring people up through the ranks, and it's really cool. Like my production designer on She-Hulk was an art director on Avengers,
and that's awesome.
And then her first production design job was on She-Hulk, and she ended up doing Spider-Man Chronicles with me, and we just did the movie in Italy together. And she's a genius. I actually just saw a friends and family screening of King Lear, which she also production designed. I didn't direct it, but she's so amazing. And so they really like to kind of bring people that have been working for them for a long time up. And
is King Lear Denzel Washington movie? Is that or who plays him?
No, it is Al Pacino.
Oh, Al Pacino. Okay.
And my husband is in it. It's a movie, so we got to see it.
Who's your husband?
His name is Reese Coiro. He's an actor. He's famous for playing Billy Walsh on Entourage and many other things.
Can I tell you, my wife's an actor, so is Matt's, and whenever there's
she's our other connection.
Oh yeah, yes,
because she was on Matlock.
She was on Matlock that you directed and EP'd. And my wife is an actor, and whenever she's auditioning for a role that's like an industry role, like she's a writer, she's like she did a part on The Studio, and I she's in the scene with Nick Stoller, who's a director that was playing himself on the show. And I have some friends that work with him a lot, and I know that they call him Stoller. So I told my wife in the audition, you should call him. You should end the scene with Stoller. I'm sending you my invoice, and just leave the room. And I feel like those little whenever we get to help our wives with auditions for
a little something
industry related shows, it's when you're audition, and I guess you were an actor, so you know this, but it's and you're a director, you probably have seen thousands of auditions at this point. It's just, it's all about how can you just bring something? It doesn't matter what it is, the choices.
It's true. And it's also ephemeral. I mean, I thought often if I could go back and talk to my little 21-year-old actor self, I would say the fact that you're auditioning means you're good. And then it's just luck.
Sure.
And, maybe you have someone giving you great advice about a line or, the look. And it really is not about being good or talent once you're already in the space of auditioning. And it's so hard to know that when you're in it. But I always tell actors that sometimes it's just magic too. It's like the little special moment that happens.
Yeah. I do want to get us back on track, Matt. Has reminded me where we've gone way off the deep end already. But I do want to ask you an actor question as a director that's directed so much TV. And I bet Matt would be curious about this too, is that I think a lot of times actors are looking for that special something to do in their audition to book the part. And then they book the part and they get to set and they're like, no, just, by the way, we took your 5 lines, we cut it down to 2 lines. Can you just say it as scripted? Because you're literally just kind of moving the plot along in a very specific way.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you think about day players and work with them and all that stuff?
Well, because that is how I started also doing guest stars. I often think about what I would go back and tell myself, so first I would tell them about auditioning, you're good. That's not why you don't get it. And second, I would say, you are coming onto a speeding train and it might be very different from your audition, and you just have to kind of trust the process and not be too needy for feedback. And I always try to, give guest actors feedback. But if I'm not giving you feedback, it's because you're doing a good job and it's all going well. And, I find people come in and for them, it's the biggest thing that's happened to them, all month, all
Sure.
year.
Or ever.
And
Ever. Yeah,
ever. And
Yeah.
it's so exciting. And they've put so much weight into it. And for me, it's one of 15 people who are coming into this episode and I'm dealing with the leads and the plot and the editing. And so I just say, just come in, be cool, do your job. Don't be too needy, and know your lines. You would be so surprised how many people come in and, they don't know their lines. And that is always confronting.
players that don't know? Wow. Yeah.
It happens.
Well, you get when it is the biggest thing that's ever happened to you, you get nervous sometimes, and it's like, and I bet if you haven't been on a lot of TV sets, you might not realize that you not knowing your line is like kind of fucking up the whole schedule.
A huge deal.
Yeah.
But when I was like a young baby guest star, I would just be like waiting for someone to tell me like I was doing a good job. And if they didn't, I would think that I was not doing a good job. And then I would spiral myself. And so I'm always like, if I'm not talking to you, you're doing a great job.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I remember shooting like some like promos for like Nicole Richie had like a VH1 show that we were doing like kind of like man on the street, like improvised pieces. It was like in an era when there was a lot of improv.
Yes,
so
I
it was just
remember.
like soft scripted, like whatever. Anyway, we had a day player kind of come in and he crushed it. And he knew it, everyone knew it. And we were shooting in a hotel. So he finished this little bit and wrapped him or whatever, and we shot the rest of the thing. And I remember as I was leaving, he was in the hotel lobby and they clearly like bought himself a glass of like champagne and like toasted himself.
It's cute.
And
I
I savor it. I love it so much.
Oh, good.
I love it so much. And like he saw me see him, but like whatever, that's fine.
No, I love
It's
that.
kinda
I love
great.
it when
Yeah.
actors take
Yeah.
selfies on set because I feel like there's this idea that you should never ever take a photo on set. But I'm like,
Well, there are
This is
signs
like a
everywhere that say
highlight.
don't do it. It's really easy to overlook because actors who are great make it look really easy,
yeah, being like vulnerable and technical at the same time.
Sure. Yeah. With a bunch of like grumpy grips, like waiting for you to get it right so they can move on.
Hey,
Well, it's funny because there are a lot of nice
you're
scripts.
just as long as you're righty tiny lefty loosey.
Yeah.
Cool.
I did a cameo in the finale of last season's Matlock, and it had been so long since I'd acted, and I had this moment where I'm very into operative words and telling actors like, make sure you get this, and I had this operative word that I could not get, and everyone was like,
Unpack what operative word means for listeners at home.
it's
And
where
not
you
me.
it's where you put the emphasis, right? So it's like the emphasis on a word, and sometimes people will put it on the wrong, like in the wrong place.
Like a word of the dialogue.
A word of dialogue, even a syllable on the word can be in the wrong place.
Like we've been here for 10 hours. Could be
We've been here.
have been here. Yeah.
Exactly. We've been here for 10 hours, and I want it to be we've been here for 10 hours. And it's that nuance is something I listen to a lot, and I had a line I could not get, and I had to be like, cut, and go and kind of say
Wait,
it over
you were
and over.
directing it too?
I was, I had the showrunner there watching, and
did
the
you have
writer
a
was
mirror where you
there.
were talking to yourself?
Well, the mirror is the scene partner, right?
Sure.
When they're looking at you like,
Yeah.
But it was such a great lesson because I think of how often I just yell at people, no, do it right, say it up, put the emphasis on the right syllable, and then there I was like unable
You're like,
to get it.
we.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
I do think as a director, I mean, I'm sure all directors do this, but to me, I think it's really important for me to try to, when I'm showing the blocking, to just try to do the blocking myself, and
Absolutely.
to walk them through it and like then pick up this knife and then cut this thing. And then while you're picking this up, look over here and say this. And I try to do it because if I find it to be really difficult, then I'm like, oh, maybe we need to do something
Adjust.
different,
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah.
I was thinking of Warner Herzog and Little Dieter Learns to Fly. Is that the movie?
Oh, yes.
Christian Bale one where they're eating bugs, and Warner Herzog's like, "Eat the bugs like this." I don't know. They have in the behind the scenes. He's doing everything he's asking them to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. Already fast. It feels like we've known you for a long time, Kat. I want to rewind a tiny bit and kind of set the table for everybody a little bit, because you alluded to you started as an actor and then transitioned into directing, and have a pretty awesome track record of moving from kind of like episodic day player sort of work, right, where you're kind of to a certain extent a cog in the machine, to to all the way up to EP.
Yeah,
right?
but also in indie film and that
and
whole
indie
world,
film and all
right?
that. Yeah. So give us the cliff notes on that early phase of your career, and then those first few moments where things felt like they were clicking, and then transitioning into a higher level.
Well, so I started as an actor, and I was doing guest stars, and I did a pilot for the WB to date myself, and I did a movie, like a Warner Brothers movie, and I wasn't very happy with them, and I felt very powerless. And I thought, gosh, I really don't want to keep seeing these things that I'm a huge part of that aren't good. At least if I make something and it's not good, I'll know why, because I really didn't know why.
Or it'll be my fault, right?
Yeah,
You know
sure.
what I mean?
No, and then I can learn and take accountability. And so I just started writing shorts. And the first short, I starred in it with my friend and my dog, and it didn't go anywhere or do anything. And I did another short that was very much like that, kind of a learning process.
And
then
were
I
the
made
shorts like acting showcases? Like, I'm going to just write a great part for me?
No,
Or was it more
absolutely
about the filmmaking?
not. It was more about, let me make something so then I can get actors to come act in it. I actually changed my name, completely dissociated from acting, because as a young woman, I didn't want that to be the perception. I wanted to be a writer and a director. And, so I finally, after a couple attempts, made a short that made sense and was watchable. I was not in it. And it went to some festivals and
Sorry, can I ask, when you say some festivals, do you mean like the big ones, or like just some? Yeah.
No, Holly Shorts Film Festival in Hollywood and the Vale Film Festival, but I had a really great time, and I met people, and
I love that, because sometimes people are like, some festivals and they mean Sundance. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I went to a school in Boston. So
yeah, exactly. No, and those festivals are great. I mean, I just went back to Holly Shorts, and it's such a cool, like, in the center of Hollywood festival, and they've launched so many people. But yeah, it wasn't big film festivals with a lot of prestige, but for me it was really validating and exciting. And I had met through an acting job Kristen Ritter, who was kind of an up and coming actress and at the time, and she and I just started writing scripts, and we wrote so many scripts, maybe 8 feature films, and some of them were good and some of them were just insane and terrible. She recently found the file of all of our scripts, and it was pretty amazing. And so we were kind of writing, and I just kept making shorts. And I actually went to AFI. I got into the master's program, went to AFI, but while I was for directing, but right before I went there, I had made a little Funny or Die short that went viral. And I got an agent, and I had just started at AFI, and I got a call from the agency saying, we have someone who wants to fund one of these movies that you and Kristen wrote. And our first instinct was like, Kristen was like, I'll play the third lead. And I was like, we'll get a director and I'll shadow her. And then we looked at each other and we're like, let's just make it. You play the lead, I'll direct it. Let's fucking do it. And so we got about $300,000, and we shot this movie in 17 days, and we got all of our friends to come, and it's an amazing cast.
And what year is this?
This is 2009.
Okay. So 300,000 is a pretty substantial amount of money at that time.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, we shot it in film. Doug Chamberlain shot it.
Oh, cool.
We got free film, and it's a pretty intense experience. Like, there are scenes that are one shot, one take.
Because
you're like, well, I've got 2.5 hours to get everything done, and loadout takes 2 hours and 15 minutes or whatever. Yeah.
And I made all the mistakes. I had like 17 dogs and 14 babies, and Seymour Cassell was in it, but it was.
That's what they say. Never work with dogs, kids, or Seymour Cassell.
Or Seymour Cassell. Yeah.
Rest in peace. He's amazing. And and we ended up selling the movie and having a little theatrical release, and it made the money back for the investors. And Kate Bosworth was in that film, and she said, let's make another movie together. And with her being attached, I wrote a film for her, and we got $150,000 to make it, and we went to a little island off the coast of Italy. And, the money, it went exclusively to pizza and the plane tickets and the hotel rooms. And we shot on a 5D.
Pizza grows on trees in Corsica or wherever you were.
I was, I think, 7 months pregnant at the time with my second
your bio
child.
said 8 months, but
I was 8 months when I left, to be fair. And they almost didn't let me leave the country.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Right. You're not supposed to fly at that point. What's going on?
I started getting on the plane and they were like, you can't fly. And I was like, I'm 3 months. I'm just very
You're
large.
like,
And
I'm
that's
an actor.
insulting.
I'm just pretending to be pregnant.
But yeah, and then I did a third indie, and I really started to feel like what an amazing experience, and I loved it. But the compromises were so much because we're working at these low budget levels and we're shooting so quickly, and I never felt 100% satisfied with the work.
It's an interesting pattern we see in indie films where you make your first movie for like, you know, $300,000, $500,000, $700,000, $1 million, and you have some success, and then the next movie is like
Half that.
$150,000.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like everyone's like, okay, we're just gonna do one more low budget one.
Well,
and then
walk
Yeah.
us through the ratchet,
Well,
right? Yeah.
Look, I mean, what was so interesting was like I was very proud, like especially the movie I shot in Italy for $150,000. I'm very proud of that movie. It did premiere at Tribeca and in competition, and everyone was nominated for acting awards, and it was, really gratifying experience. But I could not get a studio movie meeting to save my life because they would see the film and say, but it's so small. There's 3 actors. There's, like it's shot on a little camera. And it was really perplexing to me. I'm like, well, yeah, if I can make something for nothing, imagine if I had some resources. Because we didn't even have a crew on that film. It was me, the DP, the sound person who was also the editor, and
the pizza guy.
The pizza guy, and my producer who, who's boyfriend at the time like had a house in Ischia, and so it was really frustrating, because I'd be like, I don't know how much better it could do. It made money back for the producers, like people liked it, it got great reviews, but I couldn't even get a meeting. It wasn't like I was getting the meeting and then no, we want to go a different direction. I couldn't get a meeting for a studio film.
But you were really enjoying the directing, and you never were like, why don't I just write these movies and have other people make them?
No, it was the opposite. I was like, please God, let me get real writers to work with. And that's how I feel now. Like I can write, but I don't consider myself a writer in the sense that I think there are people who are much better at it than me, and I can help shape, and I love to work with them, but I don't love writing. I love directing. And that, that's something I learned too. Cause I sold a couple pilots. Like I was going on a writer track, but it wasn't as fun to me as being on set, which I love.
Yeah.
So
you couldn't get a
I was
meeting.
just like, couldn't get a meeting. And I was just like, I've got to put myself in a place where I have more resources and I'm not like always scrambling. And of course, the irony is you get up to that place and you're still scrambling. It never changes.
Oh, yeah. It's those people that do like $300 million movie and they're like, we just needed more time.
I mean, that's the truth. But that's how I felt at the time, was like, I just need more. So I thought, let me get into television. And it was impossible. And I actually love telling this story because people look at me and they're like, oh, you've worked so much. It was hard every step of the way. And, I'd made these movies that all did well, and I couldn't get on a television show as an episodic director. And I would have meetings with shows and they'd be like, look, we love you, but you have to have directed an episode of TV. We cannot hire you. And of course, now I'm on the EP side and I get it.
Sure.
But at the time I was indignant. I was like, I know I can do this. It's all my skills are geared towards this.
It's a 5D Mark II, guys.
And coming up the way I did, like I did all the jobs. Like I did feel like this is perfect for me, the collaboration and understanding all the pieces of the filmmaking. But yeah, I had a lot of meetings, but I couldn't get in. And so I ended up doing like a program through a studio where I shadowed and I left my children. I flew to Canada. I shadowed 4 episodes of a season 4 show. And then I was able to direct one. And then I called every person I'd met with who said, we love you, but you just have to have directed TV. And I said, I did it.
And what was the first show you did?
It was called Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce.
Oh, yeah. That sounds fun. We watched that too. That was fun.
And it was great. And I had a great time and I got great references. And then my second show was The Mick, which I ended up doing a ton of episodes, developing a great relationship with Caitlin, who brought me onto Sunny. And I did like half a season of Sunny, and then it became easy, but it was so hard getting into it. I always tell people that. I'm like, I wrote 10 scripts. One got made.
Were you always a comedy person?
I love comedy. I mean, I've done drama, but my heart always goes to comedy.
Like your features were comedy too?
The first one was, the second one was a drama. But my little short that kind of put me on the map was full comedy, ridiculous comedy.
Funny or die. Yeah.
Yeah, Funny or Die. It wasn't Die.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm like, you just have to have 10 irons in the fire at all times and really not put your eggs in one basket, like distribute them evenly through many baskets. And and just keep keep knocking down those doors.
And so then you're basically like this established TV director, comedy director, done all these episodes of Always Sunny, Mick, Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce.
Well, and then it went on, then I did Modern Family and Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Shameless, and I just kept working. And part of why is like, I never had an ego going into television shows. I'm like, this is someone else's show, and I'm here oftentimes to bring enthusiasm and energy to a show that's been going on so long that everyone is bored.
Where people are tired. Yeah.
They're tired. And like I would say, my job is not to reinvent the wheel here. It's to come in and kind of inspire people and make them excited about the show that I'm so excited to be working on. And it's kind of like what we were talking about with guests, like being a guest star, being a guest episodic director. Like sometimes that's what it is. It's like we know how the show's shot. The DP knows what they're doing. The actors know what they're doing, but they need that like infusion of excitement. And I think a lot of my success in that world was kind of having no ego, being very collaborative, but bringing the enthusiasm I felt for the show to the work.
So listeners at home who maybe are listening to the audio only version aren't seeing the visuals. Kat, when you're talking about showing your enthusiasm, you're emoting quite clearly, overtly, right? Do you have any tools for how you show your enthusiasm, how you inspire that in a crew and a cast?
Just work really, really, really hard. And, I felt because it was hard for me to break in, because I came, from a background that didn't even know what Hollywood was, like didn't have a television as a child. I just felt like work ethic was all that I had. And I felt also like, to be honest, as a woman coming in, like for a long, long time, I was like, there's no sexism. I don't feel it. And then one day it kind of all crashed down to me where I was like, wait, I've experienced sexism since the moment I started doing this. And I think I had to block it out to succeed and not focus on it because it would have crushed me. But to compensate for that, I always just did a ridiculous amount of work. Like, I mean, for my Funny or Die, I would do storyboards and they were like, nobody else does storyboards. And I'm like, yeah, to me, that preparation is the most important thing. And the preparation also allows you to be free and allows you to kind of roll with the punches and change things. So that's really where my enthusiasm comes out, is like in psychotic amounts of preparation.
Well, I'm curious, now that you're an EP and you are in this position where you're hiring directors, and obviously it sounds like you value preparation. Is that something when you're looking at directors that excites you, directors that prepare a lot, or if you're in season 2 of a show and you're doing episode 11, like, are you like, okay, you're kind of over preparing? We've kind of established what the show is.
No, I don't think you can over prepare, because that's different from changing things. It's like for a director should understand the script better than anybody. They should be able to answer everybody's questions. And so that preparation might mean asking the showrunner a lot of questions, like really digging in, watching all the episodes. I mean, one of the biggest challenges I had was when I would come into like season 10 and I hadn't watched
Right.
the show, and I would sit and I would watch Always Sunny I had watched, but a show like Shameless I hadn't watched from the beginning. And I, had to watch, I don't even know how many 100 hours of television. And, that is something I definitely look for, is like, know that show. Because when Kathy Bates asks you a question, you can't be like, I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Let me
get back to you. Yeah.
So when
and
you meet
even
with,
though it's so collaborative, the art form, it's like people still look to you as the leader. And you have to be a leader, even if a lot of your answers come from the writers and come from the showrunners and the DP. Like, you're not saying, well, they told me to say this. You're coming in and owning it, because it makes people feel secure. It's like parenting.
What would you do? Because I feel like there is kind of a difference between where you are now, certainly where you have all of the context that you need, right? But when you're just doing single episodes of something, were there ever instances where you're like, shoot, I didn't get clarity on that? Like, how did you go back, like circle back and talk to a showrunner, talk to a writer, like,
There is this funny moment on the Mick, which the Chernin brothers are some of my favorite showrunners I've ever worked with. I started, it was my second show and I just loved working with them. There was this one day where I was doing an episode and I blocked it. And then they came to set and they were like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. And in their mind, it was totally different. It wasn't necessarily on the page, but neither was my way. It was an interpretation. And so we worked it out, no big deal. But from that moment on, I started doing blocking diagrams that I would do during prep and I would show it to them. And I actually am in the habit, and it doesn't matter if it's my show, if I've been doing it for years, I send out my little diagrams the night before to everybody just to make sure we're all on the same page. And it's amazing how many times a showrunner will look at the diagram and go, oh, in my mind, it was like this. And it's a conversation, or I change it, or they change their idea. So it's really just like communication. And to me, it doesn't matter how long a show's been on the air. It's like, talk it through. Don't have to change it on the day with everybody standing there watching you.
Yeah, I love that. Are there any other specifics of things that either a mistake you made or a mistake you've seen people make, or even better, like a move they bring to set that you're like, ooh, I want to steal that. That's so good.
I think confidence is huge. And one thing that I've been really thinking about, I would say the last 5 years is, and this feels maybe a little tangential, but it's self-care. And it's like getting a great night's sleep, eating really well, learning how to eat on set, dressing well, grooming yourself well, because all of those things foster a sense of confidence that actually do matter. And I spent this is my mistake, I spent a long part of my career being like, I wear pajamas to work and it doesn't matter. And like, if I work really hard all weekend, that's good. And I would find myself kind of slobby and run down and tired. And that's actually not doing your job. And so I do say to people, like, relaxing and taking care of yourself is a huge part. And I don't want to hear that you didn't sleep because you were working so hard on the show. That actually is a huge red flag to me.
Yeah, I love that.
I was just thinking about how, when we all started and we're working for like no money and friends are doing favors and it's like you just wrapped and you're like helping put sandbags in the truck and stuff. And you're like, I just want everyone to know that I'm here with them. Like I want to support everyone and I'll be, even though we wrapped and we still have 5 more days to shoot, I'm going to be here till midnight. And then like at some point everyone's like, you can leave. And you're like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to be an asshole. And then, like, a few years in, you're like, oh, damn, like me not leaving is saying that I'm like prioritizing putting sandbags in the truck more than having a solid plan for tomorrow so that we can finish an hour earlier and everyone gets to, and it's so, to me, that's like the lesson that took me the longest was the, like, you got to just stop trying to like help everyone to, and you got to start worrying about yourself. Yeah. Or
that's so important for the beginning of your career. Like, God, that's something I do look for in all my collaborators is like, did you come from a background where you really did those things? Because I love people like that. You could, like my DP I just worked with on the film I did, like he came from indie documentary, and he also has done huge studio things, but we had such a simpatico because like sometimes you go back to that, right? And so I love what you're saying, Oren, and it's so true. But I'm also so glad that I had those years of doing that, so it's like learning when to step back. And I sometimes don't trust people who haven't been through that.
Sure. Yeah. Or even just like, they just lack the perspective to understand the whole picture. Right. Like what the crew is going through or what the what levers you can pull. I think also it is different when you're 25 and loading sandbags.
And you can sleep for 2 hours and be pretty much okay.
I'm like, if I'm under 8 hours, we are in trouble, guys.
I know. It's crazy, right? It's so different.
Yeah.
I do remember when I was a crew, when I first moved to LA, I worked as like a grip. My friend went to AFI and I worked on all her student films. And I would hear, the longer I worked as a crew member, I'd hear people complaining like, oh, this director like doesn't know what they're doing. Like, why are we doing 25 takes? And then they decide they want to do this other shot that's like an alt version, and you realize like, oh, the director is really so in control of what time we get to finish the day,
Yeah.
And so then that's like when I learned like, oh, that their decisions are impact everyone, and it is important for them to be like, you can tell, good directors that have a clear idea of what
clear
they want to
vision,
do
yeah.
will just make everyone happier, including the actors, and then you're making better stuff, hopefully.
I have this new motto that I've been saying, and I actually just was having conversation with some of the guest directors. Like, sometimes you have to slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
And I think that's another lesson, like, over the years, especially when I first started doing episodic. I would like Girlfriend's Guide had a red countdown clock over the monitors, right?
Are you
Awesome
serious?
training. Yes. And you were down to the second, right?
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that was my first show. But I spent a lot of time at the beginning. It was like all about getting the day,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that was the most important thing. And when I finished early, like, so proud. And I've learned, to very recently to, that's important. And it is so important if you're a guest director, but it's not everything.
Mhm.
And it's so important sometimes to like take that time to really rehearse.
Mhm.
And then you do save time if everyone feels comfortable. And when I started, I would definitely like, okay, let's get through this rehearsal so we can get into lighting mode so we can go really fast. And that does not work, and being able to kind of like take the time to set the pins up,
Yeah.
I think is a huge thing that I look for in people too. Like, I'm a little afraid when someone's like, I'm so fast, I finish early every day. I'm like,
Yeah. I do like to say the right way is the fastest way, right? Because
Yeah. That's good. I like that.
you're just like, if you go fast and all of a sudden shoot, you didn't get the shot that you really needed, and now you're reshooting, right? So that
Yeah.
ultimately is slower, right? That mentality, I think, it's like you said, it's really hard to learn, right? And I think also when you're in a TV environment, there are a lot of other stakeholders who have figured out how to give you the right amount of time to get the job done. Right? Like, when you're on an indie feature or something, and you're like, shoot, I can only shoot
62
one
setups
shot.
today.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's like, there's not a whole army of people who are like, hold on, Kat, like, this isn't feasible, or I think we need to give you a little bit more here or there, or whatever. So, like, to your point of like, oh, a guest director making their day, they should make their day because it is utterly feasible to. It's not
Yes.
impossible. You've been set up for success, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do believe,
Yes.
I think Kara, when my wife was on Matlock, I think she said that you guys did some abnormal amount of setups in one day.
Well, we shoot 3 cameras, and that's actually been, we did a lot of 3 cameras in season 1, but in season 2, I was like, that's how we make our day, and preserve our actors, and make sure we're not wearing them out, because that show moves fast, and there's it's like 60 pages for 45 minutes. So you really have to protect people. It goes back to that self-care too. It's like, yeah, you can do a 16-hour day, but then
Sure.
everyone's
shooting. Yeah.
miserable.
Yeah, and tired for the rest of the shoot.
Yeah.
So talk to us about the way that things have evolved after you really got a good number of episodes under your belt. You were like, oh, you're doing a lot. You're bouncing around.
Yeah.
How did you skill up?
How did you get into your first pilot?
Sure, there you go.
Yeah. So one of the producers on The Mick was actually doing a pilot with Aaron Foster, who just did Nobody Wants This. And it was funny. It was back at Fox, and it was in the days when they would do lots of pilots. Like, when we made Matlock, there was 2 pilots. This was only, I think, 2018. But, there were like 10 or 15 pilots. And they were like, a lot of these won't get put on the air. We know that. And mine was one of those. And so they were kind of willing to take a risk on Aaron. They were willing to take a risk on me. And it did not go onto the air, but it was great. And we had a really fun time. And the pilot was, it turned out really well. And then that led to another pilot. It's all reputation. And it's all what were people's experiences with you.
But is it at all, I'm curious, sorry to interrupt, but for the pilot, is it at all like your take on it? Because you're deciding like,
absolutely,
handheld, three cameras, single camera, like what, like that whole thing to me seems like kind of like
pitching.
pitching.
Like going back to movies. I mean, it really is like going back to movies where you're very collaborative with the writer. So, you're casting it, you're deciding the look, what cameras to shoot on, you hire the whole crew. So it really is like a little movie. And I loved it. And I I ended up doing, I'm not sure how many pilots I did. I did a few unproduced, or, they didn't get picked up, but it was a good experience. Everyone was happy with the result. We were all devastated when it didn't get picked up. It wasn't, and back in the day when they just made pilots to not pick them up, tax write-offs. And then I went from there to the She-Hulk pilot. Yeah. And that's kind of, it's Marvel, so it's very different.
So is that
It was
competitive?
it was the most competitive thing I've ever done. It was actually kind of amazing because I had the first meeting in March of 2020, and then the world shut down.
Right. You're like, I give this 4 weeks and then probably done with COVID.
Well, yeah, we were like 2 weeks. We'll all go back to school. But what was incredible was my husband had every She-Hulk comic book in his mother's basement, and we happened to be in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And he was like, my 14-year-old self would be so psyched that my wife needs comics while there's a pandemic.
They're in trade. It's not even the collections. That's funny.
It was definitely, he was very excited, and I was really excited. And I was like a fan, but I wasn't an in-depth fan. And I will tell you, during the pandemic, I read every single episode. And so I was able to just immerse myself. And so then
how does it work? You hear that this show is being made, you talk to your agent, or are they like, hey, would you like to meet on this?
No, I'm getting out of order. What happened? So I was doing all these pilots. Oh, this is actually a fun story. So I was doing episodic TV, and I wasn't happy with my agency, who I'd had since my indie film days. And they looked at me as an indie film person, and I'd done 3 episodes of TV. And I remember I called them. I said, hey, I have a showrunner friend, and they want me to go up for the TV show. And they're like, oh, they're not going to hire a newbie. And I was like, but I've done 3 episodes. They're like, oh, you have? And I was like, oh, shit, I have to get a new agent.
What do you mean, oh, you have? Your job is to know.
Right? That's what I said. I was like, panic. Yeah. So I end up meeting some TV
sure
agents.
They regret that one sentence.
It's everything I've done since then is for them to regret that moment. I went to CAA just for television, and I'd given up film. I really have. Couldn't get a meeting, given it up. This is I think you guys will love this story. So I'm working with these new TV agents, and they had sent all my materials out. And one of my materials was this branded short film that I had made for Virgin that I filmed on planes flying around the world. It was a little romantic comedy I'd written, and I hadn't thought about it. And I got this call from the man who is now my agent at CAA. And he goes, I watched this short and I loved it so much. Can I represent you in film? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, there's this moment in the short, and I rewound it 7 times and I cried. And I was so moved. And I was like, okay.
You're like, it was a comedy, but great.
It was a touching moment. And the first script he sent me was Marry Me.
Wow.
And I went and I met the producer, and I was at I'm never going to get hired in a feature. It's not my path. It's not my destiny. And so I was very honest in the meeting. I was actually shooting Sunny, and I was on a lunch break. And I was like, look, the script has this problem, this problem, this problem. You could fix it by doing this, this, this. I got to go. I'm funny.
Pretty influenced by hanging out with those. There's always Sunny guys.
Yeah, you're just going to my limit.
I was so confident. I was like, look, I know how to fix this, but I got to go.
She shouts a lot, though.
I do shout a lot. Am I shouting?
No. It's a Sunny joke,
No, but I do. And then I got a call, and they were like, we've been trying to get this movie off the ground for 10 years. She had the solution to fix it. We want her to do it. And the producer, who's Jennifer's partner, Elaine Goldsmith-Thomas, she fought for me in the studio system.
Been on the podcast.
Friend of the show. Yeah.
I love Elaine. She's
hardcore.
What was the movie we talked about?
Hustlers.
Hustlers, yeah.
Hustlers, yeah.
Yeah, so we went to her office, the house call.
You did?
It's our only
oh my God.
House call ever.
Really? Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it was incredible because she was like, this is our director. And the studios were like, what? And she was like, she's our director. I'm telling you, we're doing it with her. So do it with her, don't do it. And we ended up doing it with Universal. So I had actually done Marry Me right before the pandemic. And then the She-Hulk thing came along, and I became the biggest She-Hulk fan in the world during the pandemic. I came back, and it was so competitive, like nothing I had to make.
Like, how many people were you? Do you have any idea how many people were?
Yeah, there were 4 people, and I made a sizzle reel that was like tone, and then I made I like shot something, Doug shot it,
Mhm.
where like I kind of like did this. It's really hard to describe, but I basically like I broke the fourth wall and talked to camera about what I was going to do as the director, and then I had someone like playing She-Hulk, and I had trading
And that was
cards.
already built into the pilot script, the breaking the fourth wall.
No.
Oh yeah, yes,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Well, I didn't know because we weren't allowed to read it. That was part of the thing.
Wait, what? How can you pitch on it?
You'd read all the comics.
No, but you don't know what the tone of the show is unless you're
There
creating
were
the
many
tone of
levels, and one of them was like, "What would you do with it?" Basically,
They're like,
what would you do with the
gotten to
property?
page 5. Has page 5, first 5 pages access.
But yeah, I made like a color palette video. I had 15 minutes of content that I shot that was like,
There's a lot of green in it.
there's
And
a lot
purple.
of green.
And purple.
There's some green Emmett, I remember. And, and then I got the pilot. And so then it became really specific to the pilot itself.
Can I ask a question, actually, rewinding just a tiny bit? All of this prep work sounds like so much work, and it sounds kind of expensive, right? Is this something where you're pulling favors, you're investing your own money? Just tell us about the logistics of pulling something like this off, right?
Well, when I started, I actually learned it from commercials, because back somewhere in there between indies and writing pilots and doing episodic, I did a little slew of commercials. And I saw these, boards that they make and the treatments. And I was like, oh, this would be so helpful for Feature World, because the meetings I'd gone into.
Kat, you just made Oren and I feel so much better.
Well, it's because, we come from narrative and
we just live in
we're
living in
that the commercial world. And we're always like,
these skills are
decks,
helpful. Everyone.
I mean, we're page decks about 15-second commercials.
Yes.
Like we're thinking about every pixel.
They're powerful. Like they're powerful and they're amazing. And like going into meetings and talking about stuff is so lame. And that's kind of what I'd been doing up until I did these commercials. And then I would start to even create, crazy, but even sometimes for episodic, like I pull images from the show and like put together what were my favorite shots and what were the signature shots and what was, and I started kind of bringing the commercial like sensibility into the narrative. And I started off doing it myself, and, or like having Emily, by the way, who's very good at Photoshop, like help me. She definitely helped me back in the day. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, if I spend money on this, I will make it back. And the truth is, once I started spending money on my treatments, I have not gotten a job. And, it's a hard advice to give people who are starting out. I wouldn't have been able to afford that when I started. I had no money. But looking back on it, I think I would have started working a lot sooner.
Yeah.
So
but also if you think about like that, you're going to spend 3 weeks of your own time crafting this pitch, and you could, for $1,200 or $1,500, like have somebody else not just do a lot of the work, but take a lot of the stress, off of you, the layout, the design, kind of typography stuff.
Yeah. Like,
it's like so worth the investment. Like even if you only win, in commercials, we think about like, if you win, I think whenever I win a job, that job pays for the jobs I lost,
Yeah. Well, and like making the sizzles, like I started making sizzles, and it's so funny. Like I've made sizzles now after I have the job for prep to show people, because that tone is like, my Marry Me sizzle is the movie. And I'll show it to people and they're like, oh my God, it's the movie. It's got 3 acts and it's like has the crescendo of song. And there are shots that like I took from the sizzle. And so I now consider that to be a huge tool. So doing it for She-Hulk was fun. And when I got to set, I felt like I'd already done months of prep, because I was able to, show the production designer, the props, the, cinematographer, like, here it is. Here's the vision. And you cut out so many words. So yeah, it was very competitive, and it was initially like they were going to have quite a few directors, and then it ended up just being me as the executive producer, and then there was another director who came in and did some episodes in the middle. But it was a crazy process. 93 consecutive shooting days, a year of editing.
Consecutive shooting days is
you had days like weekends off.
Weekends, but not a long weekend in the bunch. And it was full COVID, like getting tested every day. Where in the beginning, I was wearing mask and face mask doing comedy, you know. I had this one moment, I had this crazy moment with an actor, a young actor, and I'm like giving him this direction over and over again, and he's not getting it, and I'm frustrated, and I go home and I go to sleep, and I wake up at 3 a.m. and I realize I was acting it for him, but with my face covered, and I'm like, why is he not getting this? It was my fault.
And that movie has all the visual effects, and she gets bigger when she's hulking out, and
people have no idea. Like, it has more visual effects than anything Marvel has ever done by far, because it was all a blue screen, and then she was She-Hulk, and the way we would shoot
didn't she
it
walk on like stilts or something?
Well, we do a pass with her, just her. Then we do a pass where the grips would build platforms, and when it was her and Mark Ruffalo together, they're two radically different heights. And so the blocking, we'd have to do the blocking, then the grips would build these like intricate mazes of platforms. And then we'd do a pass where they had the head on the head. So it was their height, but then they had the big head. Yeah, the eye line. And then we would do a pass with a 6'7" woman, painted green. And then we do a ghost pass where everyone else in the scene does the scene, but she's not there, and we read the lines off. Boy. So like something that, and then Marvel.
And then you're like, there was a water bottle in the shot. We got to do it all over again.
Sorry, when you say a ghost pass, though, it's
everyone but
everyone but the CG characters, which makes sense. But does that mean you're on motion control, or is it just kind of like a reference pass, basically?
It's just a reference pass, but we would use it sometimes if it was the best take for like the background or something. And so, you know, something that just seems like a simple scene is 7 times. And Marvel does a plate for every shot, from insert to big, you know, steady cam walk and talks. So you're just like, you know, something that would have taken half an hour was 4 hours, hence 93 shooting days.
Yeah. It sounds like you need like an AD or someone that's keeping track of like, oh, let's get the plate, let's get the like.
We, you know,
director to
I went to a Tina Fey show right after, and I had to stop myself from being
shooting a plate.
That's like really like comedy. That's back to like the, you know, raw comedy, and be like, are we missing a plate here? Ball and charts.
Yeah.
Wait, so when you're pitching, when you're like,
you said ball and charts in front of Tina Fey. I like that.
Yeah, I did.
Like, ball and charts. When you're like figuring out what She-Hulk looks like and feels like, and what size she's going to be, and all that stuff, like, when you're pitching, how much of this like plan of how we're going to accomplish it are you worrying about? This is something we, you know, in commercial pitching, a lot of times there's this balance. Sometimes you're like, ooh, this is how we're going to pull off this cool shot. It's going to be this. We're going to use a steady cam. We're going to go to a dolly, or we're going to go on a jib. And sometimes you're like, we're just going to pitch the final result, and we don't need to talk about how it's done. You know, we'll figure that out later.
Knew they wanted her to be CGI. You know, there was never the Lou Ferrigno version of She-Hulk. So, and, you know, when we cast Tatiana, like, obviously she's the very small person, which is so fun for Jen Walters, but we knew she was CGI. But really, it was a discovery process altogether. And it was really collaborative with, you know, cinematographer, VFX supervisor, and then really Kevin, Lou, and Victoria at the time, because Victoria, she's no longer there, but she was the head of VFX. And what was so awesome about She-Hulk was, I'm used to being very close to the AD and the DP, but our VFX supervisor was now the fourth part of that quartet. And she was incredible. And like, I learned so much. I mean, I actually went on after that to Spiderwick Chronicles, where I came in be like, oh my God, I know so much about VFX. And I brought in my VFX supervisor in the way they did at Marvel. And he was so excited. And it became such a fun collaboration to design the creatures and design the methodology. And the thing I found is every scene is different. There is not a methodology, both on She-Hulk and Spiderwick. It was like, how do we make this look as cool as possible? And Spiderwick, they were so organic. You know, in She-Hulk, it was there's a little bit of camp to it. She was like, you know, the CGI cartoon. There was a little Roger Rabbit. But in Spiderwick, it was all about like making it integrated and texture and feeling as real as possible. So we used every methodology there is for VFX, and it was so fun.
What were some of your references for She-Hulk? Like just tone and style?
Alina Thiel was a huge one. And then Fleabag a little bit. And, you know, it was interesting. We obviously talked about Deadpool and, you know, how does that fourth wall break? happen.
House of Cards.
House of Cards. Oh God, I forgot about that one. We did talk about that one. But like bringing a sitcom flavor to it, and that was something that evolved a lot in editing too, because the scripts were actually a little longer. But this is one of my favorite Marvel moments. I got into the edit, and I said to Kevin, I was like, "Is it okay if I kind of trim it down a little more and bring it more into sitcom?" And he goes, "Your directive is to just make it good." And they're really like Marvel doesn't really have rules. They don't think of it. They didn't think of it as television. They didn't think of it as it was really its own thing. And so there was a lot of freedom in a way, and it was interesting. It's Marvel. It's not anything else.
Yeah.
And was that the Ally McBeal reference was your reference? Like, is that kind of something that you brought in?
Our producer, Wendy Jacobson, who's a Marvel producer, she had been with the project at the inception. So she worked with all the writers. And I know they referenced Ally McBeal a lot. And it was something that when I looked at the comics, even before I'd read the pilot, I was like, oh, Ally McBeal is such a great reference for a lawyer who, breaks the fourth wall and is like cute and hip and fun. And so I think that was probably one of the things that got me the job. Is in the first meeting, I was like, Ally McBeal. And that's what the writers and the producer had been kicking around for years and years developing the show.
Did you sneak any dancing babies in there? That would have been awesome.
Well, that would have been awesome.
That is so cool, because you think of Marvel as like, I feel like there was this era that began with like when Spider-Man was just like a high school movie that happened to be a Marvel movie, and then Thor Ragnarok was this kind of like rock opera style, like, like just kind of starting to commit to genres and then Marvelizing them. And I feel like it's like a fun
cool
era.
Like what I think is cool about Marvel is that they're really interactive with the audience. So I think the part of why they've evolved and keep evolving and like have highs and lows is because they listen to the audience. And I think that's a really unusual thing. And I remember being so excited to be a part of that, because I loved commercial stuff. I loved stuff that audiences like. And so it was kind of neat to be like, oh, like to look online and to hear what people are saying and hear the love and the hate. And only Marvel can kind of bring people to such levels of passion. And even when people were upset about it, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that is the ultimate fandom to care that much, We
always say the negative comments mean you've made it.
Sure. Yeah.
It means people are watching.
And and the show poked so much fun at the meta of it all too, that I got a kick out of it all. I liked it.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like She-Hulk lives in that space with like Howard the Duck and like Squirrel Girl. Like there's like this weird like side universe of like goofy zany that I always really loved, but it's not Deadpool where it's like, oh, we're gonna break the fourth wall and also do murders. It's cool, like and it's such a fascinating thing for that to be like Marvel's got all these different pockets, right? Like, or to your point, like, oh yeah, they were doing all sorts of genre stuff at that time as well, but like for the run of the comics, there were like Stan Lee loved comedy. Like he had like a different moniker of like funny jokes and stuff. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's fascinating for them to be mining those different veins, but then to see, like a fan base of like the most mainstream properties in the world, but also with like a little bit of like that film bro toxicity.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
A lot. I'm trying to be kind to people, but like
I got death threats. I got threats.
Are you serious?
Like or the patriarchy is coming for you. That was the message I got a lot. And it was stuff, it was so weird too. It was like, what are the awesome things that I'd say my favorite thing about She-Hulk was getting like, Wong and Mark Ruffalo and Tim Roth and Charlie Cox and all these people who'd been in the universe, and now they're in a sitcom and they're all like day one, like, what is happening? And Mark's like, I'm used to doing like 2 lines standing on a platform, and now we're doing 5 pages of dialogue,
of zingers.
Of zingers. And it was funny because like a lot of my job was to kind of give them permission to like, it's not a big action movie anymore. You are doing a sitcom, and it's fine. Don't worry. It's going to be fun. And a lot of the like anger was taking these characters and putting them in a different place where, Hulk is joking about,
how dare you not take the giant green monster seriously, Kat, right? Like,
I know.
That's so
Sorry.
fun. I'm now
Yeah.
thinking about it. Like Jessica Jones, I feel like they kind of went halfway there
Yeah.
with your friend
Yeah.
Kristen.
Yes, yes.
Which I love that show too. But I know we're running out of time. I had two last questions. One of them is just
one better be about Girls 5 Eva, or we're gonna have another question. Go for it, Oren.
Well, I was gonna ask just about Matlock. Like obviously, like there is some kind of tonal to like kind of the quirky like forward momentum of like a She-Hulk that you see in a Matlock. Like you were saying, it's so fast. But what's like when you came to do Matlock? What was your pitch there? Like what were the references there? Because it's like obviously it's based on this like classic show. It's like I don't know. It's not a reboot or.
It's not a reboot. I mean, look, Jenny, who's the writer, is a visionary, and she had such a distinct and wonderful vision for it. And I actually got the script and said, no, I don't want to do broadcast like Matlock. No, I didn't read it. I had met Kathy for a feature about 6 months before. And I got a follow-up after I said no and said Kathy Bates is playing Matlock. And I was like, oh shit, I love Kathy Bates. And then I read it and I was like, oh no, before I read it, I texted Kathy and I said, hey, I heard you're doing Matlock. How's the script? And she wrote back, I wouldn't change a damn word. And I read it and I was like, wow, this is really good. And I got in a meeting with the showrunner and we just had like identical sensibilities. We still do, like, we kind of finish each other's sentences. We are complementary in our skills. Like, she is just a brilliant writer and, world builder. And I set the look and the tone and kind of elevating it from, look, I think broadcast is great. So it's not an insult to broadcasting. Bringing it into like being competitive with the prestige shows looks wise and not having it feel like something.
The flight, what's the Kaylee Coco show? Flight attendant?
Yeah.
Like has that kind of like cinematic spy-y kind of vibe.
Yes. And like crafting shots and a huge part of my pitch was bringing comedy because I think a show, the shows like this that are dead serious are just not as fun. And the great joy of my life with Matlock is meeting, whole families where they sit down together to watch it and the teenager and the mother and the grandmother. And there are so few shows like that. And like as a mom of, many age children and my parents live with me, like when a show comes along and everyone can enjoy it because it's a little saucy, but it's PG, but it's funny, but it's got stakes and it's about real issues in the world. Like that is my favorite thing.
Just the trailer is so good. Because you're kind of flipping the script on Kathy Bates. You see this kind of little old lady trying to like figure out where she's going. And then it's got that
and there's
total
a depth
flip
to it.
Yeah.
Like it plays on women feeling invisible after a certain age. It plays on like here she's going to take all the things that are negative and she's going to use them to get what she wants. And she's being so bad, but it's for a good cause. And, it's just, there's so many layers to that show. And it's been so fun working on it. And Kathy, she said to me on that first meeting I had with her and Jenny, she said, one thing you should know about me is I always feel like if I make a mistake, the firing squad is going to kill me. And those are the stakes I operate with. And so everyone else operates with those stakes too. And so you just have everyone caring and wanting to do their best. And she is like the ideal number one because she does not phone it in. And we're now on episode 24. And she cares just the same as she did in the pilot about each and every line and moment. And it's inspiring beyond all words. I love her.
That's awesome. This is more of a selfish question, which is like, what do you look for in a director? How do you find directors for your shows?
Experience is great.
You have to have directed an episode of TV.
You have to have directed an episode of TV. Enthusiasm, like I said earlier, like you want to feel like they genuinely love the show. And, I've had meetings with people who are like, well, I haven't watched it yet, and it's shocking,
TV
but it happens.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, and it's also quite telling that you're like, oh, I need to watch 100 hours of Shameless, right? Like that's something that you prioritize.
Yes, I would say like yes, do the homework.
So if you're interviewing with Kat and you're listening to this episode as homework, watch the show, guys. Come on.
and love the show, like because I think we all know as directors, like it's a huge commitment. Everything you do is a huge commitment. So you better love it. So find the things you love, because you do get people who are very experienced who come in and they're like, yeah, I've done this before. And so I would take someone with less experience who really genuinely loves the show. One of the craziest experiences I've had is there was a director who told my assistant who wants to be a director, when you come in, you do something that isn't in the language of the show to set it apart. And that is the worst advice. You do not do that.
Yeah.
Come in and do the show, and look, if you can devise a shot that works within the language, that's neat. But that's why knowing the show is really important too. Again, I learned from some great people, like on the Mick. He was like, here's what we do, here's what we don't do. And I try to give that to people. Like, we don't do Dutch angles. Don't do it. And don't think you're going to set yourself apart by doing it. Yeah. You're just going to make us mad in editing.
But you do hire first-time directors, right? You mentioned, an AD of yours.
Yeah.
Why would you hire a first-time director for our listeners at home who maybe haven't done an episode of TV?
Well, so I'll talk about my AD, Michelle Labroucherie, because I love her. She was actually we worked together on the Mick, and then she did my first pilot, and now she's doing Matlock. And, I watched her care so deeply and give herself over to the show. She works on such a deep level that is oftentimes deeper than guest directors who come. And so I've been wanting her to direct an episode for a really long time, and our showrunner sees her passion. She also, in her striving to direct, has made some shorts that are really good. And that was an important part of it. Like seeing that independent stuff. It might not be in the world of the show. It might not be a direct translation, but it shows that she's not just trying to get on a show she's working on. She's also pursuing directing as a passion. And so I would say to anybody who's coming up through the ranks of, other crew positions, which I think is a great way to do it. I love people who come from editing, from script supervising, ADing, cinematography. Like, those are sometimes the best directors, but you also have to show that, you're passionate about it and make stuff on your own, even if it's short, even if it's small.
Yeah. We had this director, good friend of Matt's, Brenna Malloy, on the podcast. She's directed like every Chicago verse.
Sure.
Yeah.
911, all those, like a million of those. And she said that her agents, she had done like 30 episodes of TV in like 2 years or some absurd amount. And she said her agents still send out her like short film as like a directing sample because it was
short film.
Her student film, which she did win a student Oscar for.
Sure.
But,
So
okay.
It's good.
But still, like, a lot of television, full budget television, and then also this short.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because it's vision. It's vision and it's passion, and it's, it's do-it-yourselfedness, if that's a word. And I think that, that drive is so important, because we all know, like, no one is handing us this stuff. And so you want to feel that everybody is kind of working to get to where they want to be. But I think coming up through the crew is a highly underrated way of doing it. I love those people. And so many of the most successful episodic directors come from positions on the crew.
Yeah. A lot of editors, especially, I feel like. Maybe because of like time in the crow's nest and time like with decision makers. So they can
well, our new producing director on that she was the post supervisor and editor, and she knows the show better than anyone. She knows what works, what doesn't. It's great.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, on the next episode, we'll cover Girls 5 and I really want to know how you do all this with 3 kids. I assume the fact that they're teenagers probably helps. Matt and I have 3 and 4-year-olds, and they're hard to. They still want to hang out with us.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say my teenagers do want to hang out with me, if that's any testament. Like, they're awesome. I mean, I've really incorporated them into this life. None of them want to be in film. None of them want to be in the industry. But, I have to say, I like credit having kids to me having a career, because it was really having a baby that got me on a schedule where I was like, oh, I have nap time to write something. I better do it. And before that, I was like, in my 20s, and like, I'll do it when I do it. And then it's got too late, and then I drank too much wine, and then I didn't do it. And then suddenly I had a baby, and I had this finite amount of time to get shit done. And I found that it was like explosive for me in terms of creativity. Like, having those constraints actually made me way more creative. And my first movie, my Funny or Die that blew up, I recorded my daughter when she was 3 and her best friend talking. And then I used their voices to, make something funny. And then my first film was all about being in your 20s and having a baby and how chaotic it was. And my second film, I was pregnant. The first pilot I sold, I was doing it during nap time with my third child. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, I wouldn't have a career if it weren't for you guys. And I never felt like I sacrificed my life. In fact, I felt the opposite. And they sit with me when I edit. They're just a part of it. And I really I love it. I feel like it's very similar to being a parent and being a director. You have to be like kind but firm. You have to make people feel safe. You have to be hyper vigilant, and you never are not working. And so it kind of goes hand in hand for me.
That's cool. Yeah. I always thought
so great. Yeah,
having
really
kids
awesome.
helps just because, you're networking with all these other Hollywood parents.
Yeah. Pick up and drop off is really helpful.
Yeah,
for sure.
But that's a really great answer. And it's nice to hear, especially from a mom. I think it means something different than
now that I have an 18-year-old who's really awesome, that I'm somewhat of an expert.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in my mind, it's like, okay, when my kid's 8, that's when I'll maybe go make my indie feature. Like I made a couple and now I'm focusing on career stuff, making money, paying for school. And then when they're older, I can get back to my own personal passions.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely a time where you have to, but I don't know. I always found that I kind of pivoted, and it was like when I had the 3 kids, that was when I was like, okay, I got to start like writing. And that's when I started writing pilots because I could do it from home. And that's when I was like, I got to get into commercials because I can work, for a little amount of time.
You can swing it. Yeah. Timing wise.
That's what I love about commercials.
I love commercials.
Unless
we didn't talk about that either.
You're just booked nonstop. And you're like, well,
Gravy Films.
Yeah.
Check it out. Any relation to Biscuit? There is, right?
Yes, they're Biscuits and Gravy. They're a duo.
Yeah. Kendall Goldberg. She's a Gravy Films director. She's been on the podcast.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah.
The other thing we forgot to tell you about in the beginning is but it was in our email, is the unpaid endorsement. Do you have just 3 more minutes to do that with us?
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Unpaid endorsements.
So my unpaid endorsement is the Atlas Obscura app. Are you guys familiar with Atlas Obscura?
I only know it because one of the Pod Save America guys,
maybe co-founded it, right?
The Slate Political Gabfest guys, the founder of Atlas Obscura. Or something.
So Atlas Obscura, it's a website that just kind of lists all of the weird things in any geographic location. So you go to Los Angeles and you can kind of find Watts Towers or Marilyn Monroe's cemetery or gravestone or stuff of historical significance or quirky or strange in some way. And it's always been really great. But the app, I just downloaded it. It basically just adds that layer of knowing where you are specifically. So I'm on travels all the time. I have a free afternoon and I pull up the Atlas Obscura app. I was in Toronto last week and found a music history museum inside a drugstore that I was nearby and I needed to get sunscreen. So I was like, oh, this a weird little thing that you definitely would have missed. I asked the people working in the store, I was like, where's the music museum? And one of them was like, what are you talking about? And another one was like, oh, it's on the third. Yeah.
Moved a bookshelf,
It's pretty weird, but it's weird awesome. Little quirky stuff like that, right? So especially if you're traveling a lot or if you're just looking for stuff that's off the beaten path, the Atlas Obscura app is pretty fun, pretty rad. Yeah.
Cool.
Is it global?
Yeah. And it's all kind of user generated. So it's people are submitting things. You can also tag things that stuff you want to visit and all of that as well. So it goes deeper than just what's around right now. But for me,
I think they have a coffee table book.
They do.
Popular.
And they also have a food coffee table book that's recipes from all over the world and stuff. Gastro Obscura.
Yeah. For LA, they have the Echo Park Time Travel Mart, the Museum of Death, Bronson Cave.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
There you go. Yeah, it's fun stuff.
Cat.
So I am really into biohacking and all that entails, and not just on Instagram, but I actually like work with a doctor and, have this whole kind of wellness journey that is kind of all led by my Oura ring. And that's what started my biohacking journey, because it tracks sleep and it tracks activity, but it also tracks your HRV, which is heart rate variable, which is connected to your stress rates. And I discovered some really interesting things, like when I would be in a pitch meeting, my heart rate and my HRV would like really chill out. And I actually enjoy doing things like that.
That's really interesting.
Like that I might have thought of as stressful, but because I get into like a creative flow and zone, and it will predict before I get sick now. It'll say like your vitality is crashing and you need to rest and stop like working out and sleep more. And I ignored it recently. I just shot a movie in Italy and I came back and I was jet lagged and I didn't stop. And my Oura ring was like sending me these warnings and I didn't listen. And I got so sick. And I look back at the little tracker, and if I'd have just slept for 2 nights when it told me to, I probably would have avoided getting sick. And so I found it to be like, it's fun and entertaining because I like to kind of video game my whole life, but it's also really great for doing this job.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's cool. I've seen one person on set and she was showing us like the stress thing. And I was like, why can't my Apple Watch do this? But it sounds like it does so much more.
I do this too. And I love the Apple Watch, but this, like, you start to feel like it understands you. It's very scary AI stuff, but like it understands you on a deep level. And I have learned that, like, I've been in these moments where it's like, we have 10 minutes to finish and everyone's freaking out. And I like look and I'm like in the green zone. And then when I'm like out of, I'm in between jobs and I'm meditating, I'm like high stress. And it's like, I'm someone who kind of thrives in the chaos and I'm having it be proven to me physiologically, which I love.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know it sounds tempting.
I'm pretty tempted. And also like, I can imagine being the person who ignores it too frequently, right? I know I need to sleep.
Your whole life is fucked up if you would have listened to the Oura ring.
If I just went to bed.
Listen to the ring. I know. You can
like
also
a
just go to sleep.
Like a Black Mirror episode.
But and exercise. But
I have a whole app I want to pitch them that I'm not going to say on the air because I think it's a really good idea. But it's so good.
Wow.
But I'll tell you guys when you stop recording.
Well, I guess on that note, I'm trying out something new with my Apple Watch. I was just in the Dominican Republic last week and I got a really bad watch tan, and I go out. I spend a lot of hours outdoors, and I've realized now since I got this Apple Watch that I have this horrible watch tan. So I'm doing this new thing where on odd number days of the month, I wear my watch on my right wrist, my right hand, and on even numbers, I wear it on my left hand. And I'm going to see if it fixes this really bad watch tan I'm getting.
Yeah. And then just every other day, you're just looking at the wrong wrist.
It is really confusing. I've done it for today's my third day, and I'm so happy it's an even number day because, a lot of times there will be 2 odd number days in a row, the 31st and the 1st.
I feel like you should consider long sleeves, though.
Yeah.
And sun protection.
Oh, come on. It's 98 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And I'm running.
Yeah, sun protection. I will second. Yeah.
But it's something I'm trying. I'll let you guys know how it goes.
Are you documenting it?
Well, I literally recording it on my skin.
Yeah.
If a month from now.
And a podcast. We're recording again tomorrow, Kat. We'll see if it's still going.
Oh, yeah. Who do we have tomorrow? That's the one
Mercedes.
Oh, yeah, Mercedes.
Yeah.
But the other thing, I was just talking to a creative director today about this, and she asked me, like, how do I use AI? Like, what are kind of some interesting things for work? And I told her that, like, she uses Midjourney a lot. And I told her one thing I use Midjourney for is, like, art direction inspo. I did this commercial a couple years ago for this company, BarkBox, where we had these different scenes of different types of people. And one of the people was like a stoner person, and they have their dog because BarkBox makes all these like stoner themed dog toys. And so I went to ChatGPT and I was like, what would a stoner have in their bedroom, and other than like a lava lamp and like a bean bag or whatever, because I was trying to, like, when I was pitching on it, I was trying to make these little profiles of each character for the treatment deck. And it gave me just super cliche things. And then I went to Midjourney and I was like, hey, show me a photograph of a room of a stoner in Brooklyn or whatever, and it it gives you like 100 answers, in one frame, or actually in 4 frames. So I just found that it's just super useful to use for art direction inspiration. I think I did it at the beginning of the year. I was trying to create like a tropical resort. So I was trying to turn the beach, Santa Monica Beach, into like a Hawaiian resort. And I knew we had 7 yellow umbrellas. We had like 14 loungers, and we had 4 palm trees, fake palm trees, and like 9 extras, or 15 extras. And so I just typed in Midjourney. I was like, show me a picture of a beach resort in Hawaii, or, Punta Cana, or some like cool tropical place with 7 umbrellas. I just told it everything we had. And it just showed me all these different configurations. And I was like, oh, and I just showed it to the art team. I was like, look, can we do something? This, all that matters is like what's on the frame. It's like what Jordan Brady always says. Like, as long as you have the things that the camera's pointing at, it doesn't matter what else is going on outside the frame. And
no, I'm editing my Italian film right now. And we're using, like, when we want to add a ADR,
oh, yeah.
We feed the voice in. And so instead of my voice or the editor's voice, which is always so jarring, it's like, it's not good enough to be in the movie and to replace actors. But it's such a great tool for kind of, does this work if we add this?
An Italian accent that says spaghetti a lot.
Yes, that's part of what we've been doing.
Well, Kat, if people want to follow you and what's going on with you, are you on Instagram? Is there
my Instagram? Yeah, I'm at Kat Coiro. My name, Katcoiro.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Awesome. Well, if you want to ask Kat a question or anything, you can reach us. We can forward it along. If you have any controversial theories about Matlock or Always Sunny or She-Hulk, you can email us at justshootitpod@gmail.com, or across all social media at justshootitpod. I'm on Instagram at okaplan.
And I'm at Mr. Matt Enlow. This episode was edited by Kevin O. Yang. Thanks, Kevin. Our social media is done by Lily Bouvier and produced by Tyler Small. And you're listening to music provided by the Free Music Archive and the artist Jazar. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.